Welcome to another episode of Masters of Marketing. Today we're going to be talking with Ruthie Bowles. She is an expert on LinkedIn, building an audience, building a name for yourself, building a community. She finds it a very critical part of all of her communications, getting leads off of it for her own business. And she's going to talk about her journey from a year ago, starting with a small audience, to building an organic name for herself. And we're really excited to hear what strategies she has. Ruthie, I turn it over to you. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And just to kind of highlight the value of LinkedIn, we connected on LinkedIn. Brian messaged me on LinkedIn, and here I am. Like, that is how I got here today.
So meta.
So starting from that point, right? Yeah, like it's fate.
Yeah, you had a great post and video. Like, it was amazing. And like the energy, I could feel your energy coming through the video. And I'm like, I want to get her on the show. She is doing what a lot of the things that we like to do and why we're doing this show. And I want to hear more about your experience.
Yeah, and that is kind of, okay, so yes, so my name's Ruthie Bowles. I am a B2B content marketer. I'm the founder of Defy the Status Quo, which is content marketing consultancy for B2B companies and consulting firms. And as a B2B person, I knew I just had to make LinkedIn work. I knew it. But looking at it, I was kind of like, I thought this was for resumes. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. But I had heard from other content creators that LinkedIn was the place to be if you were B2B. So I was like, okay, I just need to make this work. Just need to figure it out, right? I had less than 500 connections on LinkedIn, so that's something that pops up below like your location on your profile. I'd also come from a completely different industry. I used to be an intelligence analyst. And so my network didn't really match with the types of clients I was looking for. Doesn't matter. I connected with more people. And today, looking at everything about a year and a half ago since I really started investing in it, I'm at like 3,100 connections and over 4,000 followers, and I'm generating consistent leads and great connections like yourselves almost every day now. So first things first, I think the most important thing, and the thing that I really focused on in the beginning, because I wasn't comfortable posting content, I found other people's content to post on, right? But I did it in a strategic fashion. The way that I focused it was, okay, I took a look at the person, I took a look at their company. Would this be a company that might want to work with me, or could this be a good connection? Those would be the people that I would try to connect with, whose content I would comment on. And the reason why I did that is because if you scroll through your LinkedIn feed, you'll see that the vast majority of people don't get a lot of comments. Like, sometimes we get overwhelmed. If you connect with a lot of influencers, people who have over thousands of followers, you feel like everybody except you is getting comments, right? But that's not actually the case. It's just the LinkedIn algorithm shows those things to you, right? So if you're not comfortable posting content, go find content to engage on. Ideally, leads and good connections for your business, right? Second thing, once you're comfortable posting content, don't be boring. And I say that because a lot of people feel like you have to be professional on LinkedIn. And I put that in air quotes, right? Because Brian, you've seen my videos. You don't have to be professional, right? I think one of the days that I did a really successful video on LinkedIn, like I had my hair maybe pulled up. Actually, I don't usually pull up my hair. I think it was just kind of everywhere. And I had my coffee and my kids wanted to interrupt. Like, it was just whatever. But it was an accurate, authentic reflection of what I was experiencing, and that resonated with people. Content that resonates with people, content that is honest, right, is what gets engagement. If you are posting the same thing as your competitor, or the same thing as the person sitting, in the metaphorical desk next to you, that doesn't stand out. That's just the way that it is. There are over 650 million members on LinkedIn. And I want you to think about it. When somebody sends you a connection request, even if you're not on LinkedIn a lot, you get a email about it, because most of us forget to change those settings. I keep telling myself to change those settings because I'm on LinkedIn all the time, still getting the emails. So most of us don't change those settings. So even if you're looking at people who aren't incredibly active, if they're a good connection for you, if they're a good lead, they're going to get the email, right? And then I would say probably the third thing to focus on in terms of like your content is you don't have to post every day. I wish that people would stop saying that. You don't have to post every day. If you put that pressure on yourself, now, if you have something to say every day, then go for it. If you have something to say that's interesting, that's compelling, that's contrarian, that's going to really get people interested, then go for it. Post every day. I've had weeks where I post Monday through Friday and sometimes Saturday and Sunday because that's just how I'm feeling. But there are times where I might only post like twice a week. And that's just because I'm not feeling particularly inspired. I don't try to force it, right? So there are some people who want you to post every day. You don't have to do that. And what happens when you post every day and you're really not feeling it, you produce mediocre content. And that actually is like ties back to why I named my company what it is, Defy the Status Quo, because the status quo is boring and mediocre content. And that's probably one of the worst things that you can do, especially now that LinkedIn has started to add view in feed as data for their algorithm. So a lot of times we'll read something or watch something and not actually click on it, right? But that doesn't mean that it didn't matter to us. It just depends on what it is. LinkedIn is adding those things into the algorithm. So if whatever you're doing is boring and they, in addition to not clicking on it and not engaging with it, they're also just scrolling past, that's going to tank you even further, right?
Mm-hmm.
Connection requests.
Cool. I wanna like stop right there because
okay,
naturally, like let's talk about connection requests and other like tips and tricks. But I'm like I gotta bring this up. I'm like irked on the fact of this posting and not posting every day. I don't post every day. I naturally would never post. Right. I am a social lurker. Right. I need to force myself into the rhythm, and build the muscle of posting, because it feels unnatural, and then it's kind of getting easier, and it's becoming kind of more fluid. And I used to be way more reserved with ideas and expressing things on social, and it's getting out there more and more. But I still feel like if I didn't force myself, my natural state was I would never post on LinkedIn. And I wouldn't get the engagement. And we've had viral videos go viral with like 30,000 views, like on LinkedIn. Yeah, right. It's amazing. So I'm all in, but it wasn't, it was a lot of to do with Ross saying, hey, we gotta post on here and we gotta engage. So for the person who doesn't feel naturally inclined to post and engage and write that, what do you recommend for them?
So I think that really the best place for them to start, and this is what I normally recommend to clients and people who come to talk to me, I would give yourself a deadline. Let's say, okay, I'm really going to focus on LinkedIn. I would give yourself like a week, right? Set a timer where you go and engage with other people and purposely look for posts that are kind of off the beaten path, right? So you can see what other people are doing and people can talk to you. So one of the things that makes us feel uncomfortable is that we feel like we're speaking out into the void. And that is often what happens when you come on LinkedIn, post your stuff and bounce. So people are just like, well, they never comment on any of my stuff. I don't know who this is, right? Because there is no exchange there, right? So if you're new or you're just coming back to LinkedIn, let's say you were here and you left or whatever, you never really paid much attention to it. You are new and people are just kind of like, I don't know about that. So if you go and again, give yourself like a week or so to engage on other people's posts and see how they do things, then that can kind of help give you some confidence in addition to building some goodwill with the people in your network. Once that timeline is up though, maybe you make Monday, Wednesday, Friday your posting days for the next 2 weeks after that, right? And put a deadline on it, because what I would want you to do is to go back and look at the results. Okay, so how many people even saw your posts? How many people liked them? How many people engaged with them? Take a look because it may be worth sending that person a message. It may be worth going back to their profile and commenting on some of their stuff, because the idea isn't, are you going to get people that want to connect with you and spend money or whatever immediately? Sometimes, especially as your network grows, that likelihood increases. But what's actually happening is that you're developing a relationship. And so you kind of build that, back and forth. But you can set particular days, right? Like you're like, Ross, Tuesday, Thursday, that's our LinkedIn day. Hold me to it, and kind of build it in that way. You can build up to 5 times a week if that's what you really want to do. But I've seen people who do that and then they burn out. So, they were posting every day, they were doing videos, they were doing all sorts of stuff. And then, I was just thinking of someone the other day. I'm like, man, her name starts with an N, but I can't remember what it was. She was all over LinkedIn for like a good 2 months and then she didn't come back.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Gary V method, the $80 method?
Yes.
Oh.
I both love and hate Gary V. No, I don't hate him. I actually really do like him. And I think I did a video and wrote a long blog post about it. I wrote something on content repurposing, and I really like his $80 method. I love what he has to say.
Let's explain to the audience what that is for a second. You want me to, I can explain. So the idea is like, if you want to be an expert in your industry, within your niche and your vertical, you should put your 2 cents on 90 different posts every single day. And that's how you get to the $80 method. And his promise is, after a month or two, you will be engaged with all of the thought leaders and all the influencers in your space.
Yes. So I think that it's an incredibly aggressive number.
Yeah.
It can be pretty off-putting. It can be really off-putting, I think, for the person who, maybe they're got a really small marketing team, or maybe they're just their own marketing team. So, but the concept, what it's based in though, is fantastic.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so.
And that's the trick, I think, is people mistake, I'm going to comment on 90 different posts, right? Yeah. But like, what are you commenting? Please don't come onto my post and say, thanks for sharing. Like,
see, I would say argue differently. I want people to come on my post and say, thanks for sharing. It almost doesn't matter. The engagement on the comment section of a post will still get more people to see it. I think we shared, like, while her internet's working out, or we'll figure that out. There was this engagement hack and this thing called like LEM pods that are going on. It's very popular in some like LinkedIn growth hacker groups. And essentially the idea is that you get in a pod of 25 or 50 people, and essentially what ends up occurring is that you share your post, and then people that are in your pod will then engage with your post like every single day. It rotates. So like one day out of every 25 days, you're up, it's your post turn. You post your post, the 25 people engage, they like it, they share it, they comment on it, and it starts the engagement cycle. And literally you can get like 50x the amount of views and 50x the amount of engagement. Ruthie, I'm talking about like LEM pods. Welcome back again.
Yeah.
The pods, yeah. Since we had a little internet issue, but anyways,
right.
What do you think about pods and engagement pods?
So I think and there's actually another way sometimes that they run them as well. And so like sometimes it's like a daily thing, like post your link in here and everybody will comment and share and stuff. And you just kind of do it whenever you get stuff. I think the most important thing is to consider whether or not the members of the pod have an audience that you also want.
Right,
so
that makes sense.
I've been invited into pods, and I'm like, well, like if it's like, oh, we're marketers, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but all of them are like B2C marketers. Now, is that inherently bad? Like, no. Would I still get some progress from that? Sure, maybe. But ideally, if I'm devoting energy to something, I want to devote it to people who have the B2B audience that I also have. And again, just focusing back on those quality comments, because when you comment on something, LinkedIn will share that with your audience. So it'll say, Ruthie commented on Brian's post. Okay, what did Ruthie say? Ruthie said, thanks for sharing. What a waste. Right? Instead of Ruthie said, XYZ, Brian, this is why I think you're right, or Brian, this is why I think you're wrong. Ross, that was totally off base, or Ross, you totally nailed it. If I say that, then the person who sees that, they see your post, but they also see my comment. So it's still just an example, an opportunity for me to demonstrate my expertise and my authority on this particular issue. So that, I think, is making the most of every opportunity, and not everybody's going to do that, which is fine, because that's, more opportunity for the people who will.
Can you talk about how that differs from what you use on LinkedIn and what you use in webinars? Because when you go in webinars, I've seen you post 5 or 6 times in a row, maybe not the most deep comment, but like, that was a good point. Oh my gosh, this is amazing, which is kind of what you're saying, like, this was a great post. But is there a different format that you can use for webinars, and what's the tactic there?
So usually with webinars or live streams, my comments are for the people who are also watching it, right? So when you look at the comments, I guess probably depending on if you're looking at your phone or what type of phone, the version of your app or whatever, it'll say the timestamp of wherever you said your comment. So, and if we're watching live, like if there are 10 people in the live and I'm like, oh, that was a really good point, my comment will also get likes and hearts, so somebody will agree or they disagree or they want to talk about it or whatever. So with the lives, it's more of a stream of consciousness thing for me. And because, again, it's kind of like how LinkedIn is, most people don't get comments or anything on their posts. So when I'm there and I'm commenting and I'm showing that I'm engaged, I feel like it's encouragement to the people who are delivering the content, because they know that I'm actually paying attention. So most of the time with those, I'm usually there to support and connect with the people who are delivering the content. If I make any connections outside of that, that is great.
Oh no.
It'll be back.
Okay. All right. So Limpop, we got some comments from the audience. Limpop works best when you get more people to get curious on your content upgrade. Something like a comment with growth hack to comment growth hack to get the workbook. So this is a classic tactic that had. Oh, she's back. Cool. So we had a comment that was saying when you comment something non-normal, like link in the comment below, like that can like deteriorate, or comment like, please, or comment growth hack, something like that in the comment section. If you have something unique, that'll also cause engagement. That was an idea that coming from somebody in the audience, which is really neat. I think this is cool. I think most of the time I feel meh about some people's comments or posts, right? And there's a kind of common theme that we're hearing on terms of content to get like inspired on social, is that the tension is in the attention. And we're kind of like hearing that a lot. And so do you recommend just kind of like not engaging? If a certain post has a lot of engagement and you're not really feeling like positive or negative or contrarian, or like contrary, what's the opposite of a contrarian? If you're encouraging or contrarian on the post, would you just leave it alone, even if like a whole community that you want to engage with is there, or
make something up?
Yeah.
No, I think there's still value in engaging on those bigger posts, especially if you have people in your network that have already done so, because they're more likely to see what you've posted because they already engaged with the post, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that's what happens. Like when you look at it, you're like, okay, so this post has over 2,000 comments, but LinkedIn's not going to show you all 2,000. It shows you the relevant ones. And those posts where things have gone viral and the comments have kind of gotten out of control and beyond like what any one person would probably respond to, there's an opportunity there, because if LinkedIn is showing you the most relevant comments, you could develop a relationship with the person who commented by commenting on their comments. So there's a lot of opportunity in those posts if you kind of take the time to look at them and evaluate the audience that has responded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also feel like a lot of the things that have the most engagement are tend to be on the edge of the knowledge of a current like knowledge base, right? So it's not things that have kind of already been figured out. If I say, hey, you should post on social to raise your brand, I mean, like, who cares? Like, that's kind of obvious now, right? It's practices. So these things that maybe are ideas or thoughts that have not yet been proven as best practices,
That's true, but I would say it depends on your audience. It always depends on your audience. So between us, right? Like I have a lot of marketers and a lot of sophisticated consultants and business professional type people in my audience. So it would be obvious to them. But for the person who's on LinkedIn, whose audience maybe is not quite as sophisticated in their knowledge of marketing, that might do it for them. You know, people create what I would consider, oh, this is kind of a basic post about SEO or why you should blog. But if their audience is primarily not me, and it is primarily those people who are like, SEO, what does that stand for again? Then maybe those posts would be good.
So having talked about putting a post on LinkedIn, you know, every 2 days, engaging in other people's content, it's great in theory, but in practice, it takes a lot of time. Can you actually break down how much time you actually allocate to maybe research a new topic, make that video? Do you do it once off the cuff? Do you redo it 18 times so you have it right? And how much time you spend posting your own content?
Okay, so with videos it takes longer because I have to put subtitles in my videos because I do not watch videos without subtitles. I have 4 children and they're nosy. They're so nosy. So if they hear anything on my phone, they're like, "Can I see?" And I'm like, "No, go away." Right? So so I always have my phone volume turned all the way down. So I need subtitles. So with my videos, it takes longer because I want to put the subtitles on them. But most of the time, I am not researching new stuff to post on LinkedIn. What I'm doing, I mean, I read a lot of content, so I come across new stuff all the time. And I have a little list on my phone in my notes app where I'm just like, XYZ would make a great LinkedIn post. I've already read about it as just me going about my normal day. I should do that. Or maybe I want to talk about, women making less than men or something like that or whatever. I had a guy come to my house to do my gutters and he would not clean my gutters until I called my husband, which I found incredibly insulting. So I turned that into a LinkedIn post, right? So it's all sorts of stuff. If I can tie it back to what my audience cares about, all sorts of things can matter on LinkedIn, right? So I don't spend a lot of time. I stick with what I know. And if I learn something new, then I share it. But I'm not usually researching solely for LinkedIn. In terms of time, I'd say it's probably like 15 minutes in terms of what I'm posting. And that just comes with practice. It's kind of like how Brian was saying, like, if you're not used to it, then it can seem really difficult and you're kind of agonizing over everything. But eventually you kind of discover what your tone is and what you want your voice to be. And that will change over time. My own voice recently changed. But you determine what you want that to be and it becomes easier to put the content out.
I find that super interesting. What do you mean by your voice recently changed?
More towards the beginning of quarantine, I posted my first talking head video,
Yeah.
right? So none of my videos have been talking heads before. And I had just been in a webinar where everybody was like super pumped up and they're like, we're going to take adversity and turn it into amazing business stuff. And I'm like, not today. These are not my people today. Like adversity is chewing me up right now. Like I am stressed. All right. Especially at the beginning of quarantine. Cause I'm like, when is it going back to normal? And the answer I was slowly getting was it's not. Right. So I posted this video and basically what I said was, and I did not have a super happy face. I had my over it face. I had my over it face on. And I said, we are not all okay. And that is okay. I am not okay right now. I'm making it and things look good from the outside, but I'm not going to pretend with you. And I was very relaxed. And the response I got on that video was amazing. And so I did subsequent videos where I was just more energetic and I was more stop that, don't do that, please stop doing this. And I would explain why, like, oh, you just emailed your list and you haven't talked to them for 3 months, don't do that, nobody likes that, right? So I was just more myself. I stopped trying to put an incredibly polished veneer on things. I still try not to swear, right? And I think so far I've been mostly successful with that. I think I might have had one time where it was like, well, yesterday I was pretty close on the video I posted yesterday, but I didn't actually curse, which is hard for me. I was in the Army. We cursed a lot, you know. So I still kind of draw the line there. Like, I don't want to offend everybody, but I decided that I was going to kind of throw that out the window and be more in line with what I actually wanted my brand to be, which was defiant and energetic. And sometimes it's loud, like how I'm loud, and sometimes it doesn't agree with you, and that's okay.
So we gotta, it's amazing. I think the muscle thing is like, as I do more video, as I talk more on camera, I get more comfortable, you get more with your genuine self or authentic self of how you would be just around your friends or whatever.
Yes.
We are running out of time.
Okay.
If you want to punt on this question, we can, cause there's like 3 really good questions we like to ask. We got a question from the audience.
Okay.
It's
All right.
how do you identify your ideal customer profile, step-by-step guidance? Like what steps, if you're new to this game and you want to identify your ideal customer profile, how would you start? How would you kind of walk through it?
So it ties back to whatever you have determined your marketing buyer persona to be. That is basically the person you're looking for. So as marketers, we typically look at some of the basics, right? Like when you're just getting started, some of the basics is all you have. So you do the best with what you've got when you've got it. And when you know better, you do better. So when we start out, it's often, basic demographics. It's certain types of companies. So an easy way to get started is probably finding like 10 ideal companies and then looking for companies like those ones.
Yeah.
Right. And then seeing what those people have in common. So you can kind of reverse engineer it, especially if you don't have a lot of your own data to work off of. But those basic demographics and then learning the types of content. And so it's just research over time and you can add and build up that profile. I have a blog post on buyer persona development, particularly for the B2B space, because we blend, business with some of the more personal aspects of a profile to connect with them better. But it is a pretty lengthy topic. So
It is totally. So, okay, this is my favorite question to ask. What's your favorite campaign that just totally was abysmal and like totally failed that you ever like wanted to run, you had the highest hopes for, or the opposite that you were like, this thing is going to just be okay. And then it just worked out amazing.
Okay, I will say for my first webinar, and I'll put a link to the blog post there too, because I used my own webinar as a case study. I was not confident with that. I was like, this is not going to go well. But they're like, oh, Ruthie, you should totally do a webinar. I was like, I don't know about that. But it was so much better than I thought. And I actually got encouraged to continue marketing it and everything because of the signups and things that I was getting. And LinkedIn was actually a critical marketing channel for it. And I did it a bit differently than I had seen, but I stayed marketing it on LinkedIn pretty consistently. I was emailing the people who signed up, giving them more information, not just join the webinar at this time. So I was still staying in touch with them, but I gained like 200 followers and 70 new connections, 20 Instagram followers, Facebook likes went up. And so it was pretty small, but of the 42 people who signed up, 25 people attended.
Wow.
Because I kept them engaged. So I had a better than 50% attendance. And then those people connected with each other. And I heard back saying, hey, Ruthie, I'm actually going to work with so-and-so. They were in your webinar. Thank you so much for doing it. I was like, but that really proved to me, okay, when you come at it from a how can I help you type standpoint, and it was on marketing during turbulent times, again, more towards the beginning of quarantine. It turned into a safe space for these different types of businesses and these business owners to be like, what the heck? And we got to talk out some of their issues, talk about their different audiences. People connected with each other on LinkedIn, and it just ended up being so much better than I had thought. It really was. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, but like 2 people are going to sign up. That's what's going to happen. Right. And it was just the complete opposite. I know like huge companies have a huge number of people who connect, but I had an opportunity to connect with 25 different people in a real-time fashion. And that I was like, wow, that was great. That was fantastic.
That's wild. I love when that happens. But yeah, we see like 20 to 25% from sign up to come to the shows and the meetups and the show live. Ross, I'm blanking on the last two questions.
Cool. So with 1 minute left, the last two questions are: one, where do you stay ahead of the curve? It sounds like you read organic articles and you go on LinkedIn and you read other people's posts, but where are your true sources of like, these people know exactly what's on the forefront, the cutting edge, and so I always go back to them. And then the second question is, where can people get in touch with you? Clearly it's LinkedIn, so that they can learn more from you, but you can answer that question.
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn, Ruthie Bowles. Just search for me there. And then in terms of how I stay ahead of the curve, I've connected with certain people who are experts in what they do. So like Dr. AJ is a consultant for diversity and inclusion. Natalie Ablelas is a SEO expert. Finding people like that whose content I can go back to, and I can take what they're saying, the things that make sense and the things that are new, and I can weave them into my own content. I can weave it into my own content based on what they say. So I can take what they say and take that knowledge and then turn it into something new by weaving all of these different threads together, because I post a lot about business, supply chain, warehouse management, business consulting, proposal writing, like all sorts of stuff. So something can matter in this industry and I can apply it to this industry over here. And that is part of how I create content that gets people's attention.
That's awesome.
Amazing and fun. Hey, so recently moved back to the DC area, and we're going to be doing this live and in person. So would love to have you at our live meetup event, and maybe be a panelist or speaker, whatever. More on that after things open up. But this has been amazing, Masters of Marketing. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. You're
like a fire hose of information. We never even got to connection requests, and I'm just sure there's a lot more great content to come.
We'll just have to have you back on.
Yes. Let's schedule it.
For sure.
Awesome.
Thanks for everyone for coming. Thanks, Ruthie. See you tomorrow on Masters of Marketing.
All right.